our sample size, I feel like, is big enough now that we can start looking at teams that have kind of floundered or at least are having a hard time getting out of the box. And Jeff Hammond, we talked about him last show, but Joey Logano is that guy right now. After 5 races, he's 26th in points. He was totally unremarkable at Bristol.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you can just check that off to the kind of weirdness that it was, but a 22nd place finish. He's had 3 other finishes of 28th or worse, and it's been well over a year since he won a race. What's going on there?
That's really a good question, Doug, because I'm surprised that they're having an issue right at the moment. Because, again, with the new Ford noses, different times we've seen they're fast. The other Ford teams, as far as, when you look and you see Brad Keselowski and his teammate, they seem like they've got a pretty good thing going. So I'm really kind of like confused because even Ryan Blaney, he's up there still good in the points, and yet Joey is struggling. And I don't know whether it's if it's just, bad luck. I mean, because again, I just don't know how you can ever quantify a guy that's a 2-time champion as somebody just kind of
bad
mailing
luck
it in.
explains away an over a year-long losing streak. I know. There was a point 5 races in this season. The fact that they're not good, yeah, I'll give you bad luck. I think if you extrapolate that over a year, that's a big different story. Kyle Busch, Alexis, finishes 25th at Bristol. He's now 16th. I know it's early, but he's on the points bubble. This is a team last year that just leaped out and started winning races, and I don't know that we've seen that this year.
I think the biggest thing for me was the race at Bristol and how that went for Kyle, because the way that, we've talked about that race playing out and not only that, but just his sheer dominance in the past at Bristol, his ability to save equipment and all of that. He didn't have a good race. I mean, he spun out, at times. And so the fact that he wasn't able to thrive in the environment that was created on the racetrack at Bristol kind of worries me a little bit, because it seems to me like that would be an environment in which he would do really well.
I'm not panicking over any of these drivers, but I'm at least thinking about it. Bubba Wallace, back-to-back weeks, Jeff, that he has terrible finishes. 29th at Bristol, he got into trouble early on, scraped the wall a couple of times, and just had a miserable day.
Yeah, he had a miserable day, and the thing was, going into that the start of this race, he had probably one of the fastest cars in the practice session. He looked like he had something that was going to make him a formidable competitor, but it never showed. When you talk about Kyle Busch, one of the biggest problems that they still have, and you may not have seen it, but they dropped the jack again before the left front tire changer had the tire back on. And when you can't make those kind of mistakes at a place like Bristol and continue to, you might say, recover. I mean, they were down and they got back on the lead lap, and they got back down and they got back on the lead lap. And right there at the end, they had that problem. That miscue was the worst time late in the race, and they wound up losing 2 laps. And I think that relegated them to really where they were. But those kind of mistakes is not the kind of RCR effort that I really expected. And I promise you, Kyle Busch is not going to put up with that.
Well, they literally have been swapping out a team member every week. Obviously it's not working. Maybe you lead the same 5 people and say, just get better. I want to touch on one other driver that had an awful day. He got tied up early on, and that's William Byron. He was 35th. Now, he doesn't have to worry.
I was going to say, oh well. That's good. Obviously they leave Bristol and they're like, man, we should have run better than that. We had a bad day. But as far as their season is concerned, look, they're Daytona 500 winners. They're going to ride that wave for a while, that momentum for a while, and hopefully they can just brush this off, as being a bad race.
But let me say this. You can win the Daytona 500, but if you want to win a championship, you got to be a lot better than what you are right now.
Well, look, they've got a lot of time to sort it out.
They better figure it out.
I certainly would not put them in the same category as like a Joey Logano, who, if he doesn't get it figured out, he might not make the playoffs. You got to make it first, and Byron's already in. That's
why I say at least when you're in, so that's a good thing.
And I keep going back to last year when Logano just squeaked into the playoffs and got eliminated at the Bristol night race last year.
Yeah.
He was in that first cut that only made it 3 races into the playoffs. That one concerns me just a bit.